let's talk about Kyrie Irving a little bit. He's gotten a pretty bad rap over the last couple of years as selfish, bad teammate, maybe crazy with the flat earth bullshit.
He seems kind of an asshole.
He seems very distracted from basketball a lot. And I wonder what your take as a writer and as a fan of the team is, because, look, he is, frankly, he might be the best ball handler I've ever seen. I can't think of anybody that has better handles than him that I've ever seen in my life. Like, you could talk about Hardaway's crossover or Curry's ability to dart back and forth and get position on the court, but just as a straight-up ball handler, we're talking about like Pete Maravich style stuff this guy does in the modern era. Fast hands, he's fast as fuck. Very good finisher, all this stuff. One of the best players in the NBA for sure, but it seems like weird shit keeps happening with this guy. Right.
Yeah, and for the record, Robin, I want to say this. I bet on them before the season started to win it all on mybookie.com. Obviously, promo code Drinkin Bros doubles your deposits. I bet them to win it all, and if they didn't get injured, I think they would have smoked everybody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And the people who don't use that as context, you don't have a functioning brain.
Correct.
If you're holding them to the same standard that you would have had they not been injured.
No, I mean, look, we all would have loved to see the Lakers-Nets play, right? Both teams completely healthy. That would have been an amazing finals.
Lakers-Nets would have been an all-timer.
Anyways,
that would have been great.
Back to Kyrie.
Back to Kyrie, though, yeah.
You're right about Kyrie, the best ball handler who's ever lived, maybe the most skilled player who's ever lived when you're talking about ball handling, shooting, finishing around the rim. Size holds him back, defense holds him back. I would say frustrating at times for sure, especially the whole like pawns thing, not because I'm a member of the media. I don't care. Just because it's like, come on, dude, why are you doing this? You didn't have to do that. It's one of those you didn't have to do it moments. And then the first sabbatical when he was at a birthday party or wherever he was. And it's like, bro. But I will say Kyrie, after his second PTO experience, seemed to come back with a good head on his shoulders. Almost as if, and this is purely speculation, almost as if like he went and talked to somebody, during that time period. And I would say the mercurial is probably the best word to describe Kyrie Irving. Down to the flat earth thing was really annoying because you got a lot of people buying your shoes and everything. You can't have people thinking you're an idiot or believing that that's true, right?
Yeah.
So Kyrie is definitely unpredictable, both with the basketball in his hands and what he might do next, which is why it was almost insurance. It turned out to be a necessity, but at first I thought it was almost insurance to get James Harden.
It could have been. And man, they were blowing through people when they had all three.
Well, those three guys, or that starting lineup that they want, only played together 8 times during the regular season, all year, right? Yeah. So it's hard to say how good or bad they may have been. On the sabbatical thing, I mean, that's something. I'm sure you've seen The Last Dance 10 times like everybody else, and heard Phil talking about Rodman having to take a quick 2-day vacation to Vegas, right, during the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. I don't know if Steve Nash is prepared to handle that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people still see him as a fucking basketball guy, not a coach. Like,
Kevin Durant and Steve Nash are boys.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That really helps. And he's even killed. But the thing about Rodman, it wasn't just that he would go to, I do believe he also joined the NWO.
Yeah. He was a big Hulk
That's a
Hogan
pretty
guy.
big deal when you're joining the NWO in the midst of the playoffs.
Yeah. Because that's a lot of responsibility, obviously.
Yeah.
When you're wrestling with Hogan, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, because you never know when he's going to pop off.
And the Monday Night Wars and everything that was going on at that time was a lot of pressure.
Big. Some would say more than the actual NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I've got a signed Hogan belt right behind me on the wall.
Yeah, and we've got a signed Rodman jersey right above that.
Right above that. Yeah, so, what are the chances?
I wonder. Steve Nash is in kind of an impossible situation right now, I think, with that amount of talent on the team. You have two premier scorers, ball-dominant premier scorers, but premier scorers anyways, but they don't play defense. And you've got KD, who might be – I mean, KD's got to be in the running for the most skilled basketball player of all time too, right, because of his size, but what he can do lateral movement and jump shot-wise, right?
Yeah.
So you have two of the best players of their generation and then maybe the best scorer of this generation too, right? Or at least really good at drawing fouls on a team. How do you manage the fucking ball, right? I mean, if you leave these guys all to their own devices, they're going to do what they've done for years, which is be the best player on their team. KD, even with the Warriors, his usage rate did not fucking fall. Clay and Steph's usage rate fell, but his didn't.
Well,
you know what I mean?
The interesting thing to me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, was I felt even with two of them healthy, they still could have won it all in this weird season that we've had. I feel like if Harden was healthy with KD or vice versa with Kyrie, just two of them, they probably would have won it all. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think the difference was it was 1.5 instead of 2.
Yeah.
You know, Harden with the hamstring and everything. As far as the one ball, you got to remember what era of the NBA we're in now, where the court is so spread, so many possessions in a given game. You know, like one of the reasons I think you're seeing a lot of injuries, aside from the condensed schedule and the shortened off season, everybody talks about yesteryear, like, oh, they're so tough, you know, and whatever, they would, you know, hit you with their forearm shiver and slam you in your solar plexus or whatever in the 80s. But today, there's so much more explosive movement because you have to close out so often. You have to switch so often, do all that rather than watch somebody dump the ball into Patrick Ewing as he dribbles with his back facing the basket. You know, and I think that explosive movement, you're just putting more strain on the body, but there's so many more possessions. And I think the number one commodity in the league right now is shot creation. Guys who can create their own shot, followed by shooting. But the Nets had, you know, a luxury to have all that shot creation and the insurance of one of them getting hurt. The problem is more than one of them got hurt, and that was the difference. But I think if they were all on the court, they would have figured that out, because I think they all knew, you know, there was plenty to go around, I guess is what I'm saying.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think they did in the limited time they were all on the court healthy together. The rate stats were pretty good. They weren't, nobody was dominating anything more than anybody else. It looked pretty good. But yeah, it's the same thing that happened with the Warriors a couple of years ago. Durant and Clay going down in the same postseason, like that's it.
Yeah.
One guy can't do it. Regardless of how good Draymond is at distributing the ball, you can't replace KD and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, no,
honestly, and you can't replace James Harden and fucking Kyrie Irving. I don't think with anybody really.
No, and I think the story of this playoffs, now that you're down to 4, is whether or not Chris Paul can actually win his first title,
or if he can even get on the court. Because we still, what's the?
He's out. I think he's out of that protocol. Is he playing tonight? Hot Bobby, look, is Chris Paul playing tonight? Do you know?
I believe his return was imminent the last I checked. I don't know if they officially announced for tonight, but I think he's going to be in there. You know, at most he would miss tonight. He was out for game 1 and he'll be back. You know, but you guys hit on the one thing when you talk about one guy in the NBA. I kind of think like NBA discourse is so broken. It's been so poisoned because of the way LeBron was covered for so long that no one else can ever think rationally again. Because, you know, it's either you're holding people to this LeBron standard, or you're you know, consistently trying to undermine or prop your own agenda up about what goes on. And it leads to it. You never hear NFL media shitting on players the way you hear NBA media crapping on the players during, you know, if they miss a shot or don't take a team to the next level. But I think for the remainder of the playoffs, those storylines are definitely Chris Paul. And I think on the other side, it's Giannis and the Bucks, because Giannis is a 2-time MVP, who a lot of people thought, you know, you can't be the MVP when you're getting bounced out of the playoffs. But he did a lot to solidify himself in this run. And it's tough in my line of work, because I've noticed, even by the metrics, that negativity does better. But is that really the way we should be talking about some of these guys, as great as they are, where we start nitpicking them to this crazy, sick degree because Skip Bayless has talked about LeBron every day on TV for years and years?
Yeah.